What's going on? It's Will My Craven coming to you another day with another video. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Leave a comment in the comment section. It will be gladly appreciated. Also, link down below if you'd like to make a donation. Feel free to do so. And without further ado, I'm gonna go right into this. I totally 100% appreciate my past. I appreciate everything I've encountered in it, and it's shaped me to be who I am. And this past week, I had a conversation with my father because I seen a post on Facebook, and the post was in regards to asking, I can't remember her name, but she's appeared with Country Wayne, light-skinned female, and they asked her about if it came down between her husband and child, who would she choose? So, of course, people were going back in the comments because she said she'd choose her spouse. And it made me think, who would I choose if I was in that situation? And immediately I thought, I'm going to save them both. I train for moments like that to make sure I can handle both. And in thinking about that, it made me remember some things about my own father. And I started really thinking about how underappreciated a lot of fathers go. I mean, we say this stuff, but it shouldn't be happening. And I actually called my father up when I started thinking about who would I save, and then I thought about what he did, and it did move me to tears when I first thought about it. It took me a little while to actually call him because I ended up getting busy. I was doing some other stuff, but I was moved to tears for a while, realizing that I had to call my dad up and tell him, like, man, you know what? You're actually my hero. Because quite frankly, if it wasn't for that man, I wouldn't be here today. You wouldn't know me. I'd have been gone 40 years ago, and that would be the end of me. And the fact of the matter is that on two different occasions, when it came down to the choice, that my father actually had that choice, where the doctors told him that it was a choice between me and my mother, and they weren't going to be able to save us both. And my dad was adamant about both of us being saved, and there was no ifs, ands, and buts about it. And of course, like I said, both of my parents are preachers, so of course he said in the story he did his thing about going and praying to God, talking to God, and all that stuff. But needless to say, me and my mother did live 3 years later on what we know as, in this country, the U.S., as Easter Sunday. My family had a house fire, and it's a moment I'll never, ever forget. I remember that, and I was 3 years old. I remember every bit of that. And I was actually the last one still in the house in the fire as I was trapped. And my dad got my mom out, got my little sister out. I believe me and my other sister shared a room. But he managed to get my older sister out, and I was the last one left. Of course, like I said, for me, I was trapped. I was small. I couldn't get around none of that stuff, and I was screaming. And for a long time after that moment, I was actually afraid of fire. But he managed to come back, find me, and he got us all out of there. Never forget, because it started raining that day. So I ended up getting burned on my leg. My dad got burnt. But needless to say, that moment, thinking about it, made me reflect. And I'm sure there's a lot of instances where, as men, we've did some things in life, and unfortunately, as time progressed, some of those moments got forgotten. And when I called my dad up, I said, we really never sat down and reflected and remembered that again, which kind of makes me think that's a possible reason why there's a passage in the Bible where he tells them to write the Shema of God, is what we call it, so that they don't forget certain things. And I don't think a lot of families actually have those type of moments where certain key moments that happens in our life, we actually sit down and reflect and become appreciative of those moments. As a man, this, as I say, this segment, when you see this set, and this is for the guys, as a man, I've developed sit down moments. Like I say relationships, marriage, it's like a business. So anytime you conduct business or on a job facility where business is being held, you're part of that team. They conduct business meetings. Sometimes they're quarterly meetings, depending on the company and the situation. So as a man, having your family, it is very essential to have meetings with the family. Like I explained to my dad, I was like, it's bad that we didn't have that, because there's no way in the world that me, my siblings, and my mother should have actually treated you the way we treated you after saving all our lives. Because I'm just going to keep it a 100. I'm going to keep it a buck. Me and my dad were at odds for years. There was just things that I didn't like that he did. And even though I didn't understand it at the time, as a grown man, I love my dad. We have conversations every week practically, unless something transpires and I'm tied up. But I usually set aside time for my dad to have a phone conversation with him, and I know that phone conversation with him is going to last anywhere from 2 to 3 hours. So, and there's just things that we're doing within the conversation. That's, as I said on another video, shing, 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 iron and sharpening iron. So I won't go too far away from what I was talking, because I could saying that stuff I'm saying now, but yeah. And so my dad didn't get enough praise that he deserved, and to be perfectly honest. And I expressed that to him. We had our moment on the phone. But as men, we really need to take the time out and sit our families down, go over things, so that, because a lot of times we're not getting that appreciation that we deserve, is because we're not reminding. And unfortunately, for human beings, you have to remind them of who you are. And I heard a lot of instances when I was growing up, even though I just didn't like the things that my dad was doing. And like I said, as a grown man, it all makes sense now. We have our conversations, and when we start talking back and forth on situations, then certain things come out, and it's like, oh, that's why that happened. So we have to remind individuals of who we are, because if we don't, they're going to forget. And when they forget, they start, sometimes they'll take advantage of you, they'll disregard you, they won't appreciate you. And it's very essential that you take the time out with your family, your loved ones, even your friends, and just go down memory lane about some key moments and some heartbreaking moments and that moments that you shined in. Like there is no way in the world that some of the things that I did to my dad, and we've had discussions on some things that we did, and he was shocked at some of the things we did throughout the course of years. We've had these discussions, and it's like, well, that's not surprising to me, but okay. And it's like, man, my dad saved my life when I was 3 years old. Should have been enough. There's nothing bigger than that. And as a grown man, understanding things, and it's like, yeah, I wish I'd have known that, because I wouldn't have done that stupid mess. Oh, sorry if I triggered the algorithm, but yeah, I'm talking about myself. I can talk about myself. I'm not talking about nobody else. But as for me, yeah, some of that stuff, yeah, duh. I would just say that, like, bruh, what were you thinking? Because literally I wasn't thinking. But I'm sure a lot of us have those moments, man, where we just simply are not appreciating the man that's in our life. And I know females do it too. They a lot of times they want to, get the gratification, the appreciation, mainly for themselves, because they go through their own little things. They got their own little battles, and it's understandable. Not to mention that they think emotionally, and they're the one key, the most key piece to them is basically feeling secure. And I've said that before, but I'm gonna deal with that on another topic, because that security thing is huge for them. But man, we have to if you want what you want, you have to go out and go take it. And you have to go out and go establish it. And to be appreciated as a man, you have to establish yourself. You have to establish, hey, I did this. You don't have to be boastful about it, but sometimes you just simply have to remind people what you did and what you do. And as men, we just take it as, all right, we do this, this, and this, and you should automatically know that we do this and this and this, and you should appreciate. No, it don't work that way. I mean, I thought that way when I was married, that certain things should happen and this and that, but the reality is there were instances where she should have just been reminded, and be like, oh yeah, you know what, you did do that for me. Oh yeah, you did do such and such and such, and I said such and such and such and such about you, but we don't sit down and have these evaluation moments where we're evaluating the family. Oh, okay, let's check this off. You know what? Boom, boom, boom. You did great in here. You did great there. You could tweak this a little bit. You know what I'm saying? You know what? I slacked here. I slacked there. Man, I sucked and blah, blah, blah. I did do this great. You know what I'm saying? We was doing blah, blah, blah. Let's ride high. You know what? We gonna do so and so and so to fix so and so and so. And this is what that alone would 9 times out of 10 cut down a lot of divorces, because who really is sitting down having an evaluation? Are you evaluating yourself in front of your family? Are you evaluating your family and actually uplifting them? Are you turning around and reminding them of key moments in the family that brought the family together? Are you doing these things? And I mentioned this to my dad, and he was like, "Yeah, wish you had done that." But he was very appreciative of me acknowledging the fact that I called him being my hero, and a few other things that we discussed. But honestly, we don't get enough because we don't establish ourselves enough. There's no reason why, I'm not one who celebrate holidays for various reasons, and it has nothing to do with religion at all. But unfortunately, there's a lot of things that transpire that we can actually point to the finger at ourselves for. We pub up, we help edify what Mother's Day is, and do all that other stuff. And there's a lot of women who just simply don't think much of Father's Day at all. And it has to do everything with you. Because rest assured and believe, they are thinking a lot about Mother's Day. That's why Mother's Day doesn't go unnoticed. Because they're establishing themselves as, I'm important, I'm here, acknowledge me. You see how women do? They make sure they get that acknowledgement. You don't forget it, because if you forget it, you may hear about it. But you as a man, you go through life and you wonder why no one's acknowledging you. Then you turn around and have this whole fake humility thing like, well, I don't want to puff myself up, or I don't have to be acknowledged. But yet deep down inside, you would want to be acknowledged. You would want to be appreciated. You would want to be respected. But you're not being respected, you're not being appreciated, and you're not being thought of because you're not acknowledging yourself. You got to acknowledge yourself first and acknowledge moments that you do. Remind the people that you're him. You're that guy. You're that guy who's been that guy for your family, your brothers, your sisters. When you had to bail them out, you was that one. Remind these people of that. And they will respect you. You get the respect that you deserve. The appreciation that you deserve. There's nothing wrong with doing that. And you don't want to be like how when me and my dad was having this conversation, and the reason he cried was because he said, man, I'm so appreciative that you said this to me, because my pride wouldn't let me say it to my father when I realized that was what he was to me. So it's you got to, yeah, that's another thing, man. As a man, you got to lower your pride, man, in a lot of instances, man, because it can really cost you. It can really cost you. And the last thing you wanted to do is cost you moments in life where you could be progressing, going forward, going higher. But because your pride, you're not allowing yourself to reap the benefits of certain things. And this will translate over into how you treat your woman. Because if you're not getting these type of things, then what's happening? 9 times out of 10, you're having resentment at some point. Because now you feel neglected. You don't feel appreciated. Oh, these people, they just want me for doing this, this, and this. You have to establish this. This is why I said in the previous video before about your presence. When you establish your presence, you have to then turn around and establish everything else to where it's like, he's him, he's that dude. I know if I do so and so and so, he's going to come through with so and so and so on. You appreciate it. Your presence also has to establish the fact that you need to be respected. And you, in order to be respected, we respect people off of the things that they do. And if you don't remind the people of things that you do, they're not going to respect you. Because it's easy to forget. It's easy to forget moments because life constantly will punch you in the face because it has no regard for what it is that you're going through. It's just going to keep dealing you stuff to make you better, to show you the things that are within you. And those things that are within you, that's how you learn how to refine yourself. But for one, you gotta lower your pride and you gotta acknowledge certain things. And when you start doing that, you can use that actual thing as the things that you talk about when females say, well, why don't you just talk to me? You don't have to tell them stuff that's going on that's like negative. You just remind them of certain things. See, you can dictate the conversation that you want to have with your woman. It don't have to be about things that's bothering you. Just remind them of who you are. And say certain things that, hey, you know, babe, I know I did so and so. I realized that I shouldn't have done that. I could have responded such and such. You know what? I should tell you so and so and so. She's hearing that. She's going to respond to that. especially when the actions meet the words. So there's a big disconnect between men and women currently, is because, number one, we're not having these evaluations. We're not evaluating each other. Number two, you're not reminding them of who you are. If you're getting walked all over, she's forgotten who you are. And that's easy to happen. Super easy to happen. It happened in my family. It happened in my household. My dad was forgotten. But I would hear every so often from people who he grew up with, man, who would say, your dad's one of the greatest persons I ever known. Took me to be an older man to realize that, hey, they were right. He did some stuff that I didn't even realize he was doing. He was maneuvering stuff behind the scenes that I didn't even realize he was maneuvering to put me here and put me there, and then align me up with these people over there and this people over there because of what stuff was being said and all this and that. And it's like, man, dude, boy. And it's so amazing. I'm not going to deal with why we as men need marriage, but that's a topic for another video. But the fact of the matter is I understand a lot more with the mere fact of me having a son. It's so crazy how the stuff turned out. Had a son the same age as my dad had me. My son was born almost the same day, except he was 2 months early, the same number day, but 2 months earlier than me. And there are similar things that we do that makes me think about how my dad responded, and then it makes me think about how I maneuver, and it's like, man, my dad did that. Oh, now I understand why he actually made that move. That makes sense. Wow. And then, like I said, I talked to my dad for the conversation is at least 2 hours. It'd be 2 hours, sometimes extended 3. And then the beginning of that conversation, just to see where we're at. And then next thing you know, it goes into things that have happened, things that are currently happening. And he asks me something about my son, blah, blah, blah. And then he waits to see how I respond. He may laugh and be like, yeah, I know so-and-so. Then it's like, all right, so-and-so do so-and-so. And maybe you should try blah, blah, blah. And then I'll turn around and say something, and then it makes him think about something that he did, maybe currently or previously. It's like, oh, you know what? I need that. It's the privilege of being able to see myself and he see himself. And then he sees a whole nother line with my son that's coming up between us two, and it's like, you know what? There's no reason why he shouldn't be that much more greater than both of us. Iron sharpening iron. And as a man, if you have children out here, man, and you're not partaking in your child's life, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I don't want to even go into that, because then going into why marriage is important. And I don't want to do that, because I'll be there forever. But yes, if you want the respect, you want the appreciation, you need to acknowledge what you do, man. And when you acknowledge what you do, and those who understand what it is that you do, they're going to treat you differently. And I can honestly say, since me and my dad had that conversation about him being my hero, I treat him differently. I think of him differently. Not like I have in all my 3 years of being on this planet. And it took one post to make me reflect on 2 moments that transpired. And there's some other moments that actually come to my mind. Oh, man. Me and my cousin did that dumb mess on the basketball court up in Michigan, talking mad trash to this dude. We were talking mad trash to this dude. Yeah, he decided to go to the car. Needless, I don't have to go no further than that. Y'all know, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And there's a few other instances where a basketball court moment happened and got a whole game shut down. Oh boy. But my dad was there for that too. So yeah, yeah. I can honestly say I appreciate that, man, and I told him to where you can hear it. As my dad said, he hate the fact that he didn't get to tell his dad certain things before he passed. So if you do have a father and you do appreciate him, and you take the moment and think about some of the things that he did. Lose all that stuff that you saying that was negative, because that negative stuff is sitting in the front. And it's making you forget the things that your father did. I know this to be a fact because there's a lot of things that sat in the front of the great things that my father did. And it caused me not to acknowledge the greatness in him. And we as when we're growing up as children, we want certain things that we want. We want to do things our way. We want them the way we want them. And then what tends to happen is we're looking at our parent a certain way. I mean, I understand it now. So, and then my son's at a certain age now where he wants that, and he wants things his way. And it's because I realize that now. It's like, all right, I know how to have this conversation. And what I'm saying to you currently is what I'm currently applying to my son. The stuff I'm telling y'all is not something I'm not applying. I currently have to apply this to my son to make him see certain things. As I always say, I plan my moves 50 moves ahead. So I have to do the same stuff to my son. And it's necessary. It has to be done. I have to do that. And if I don't do that, he'll turn around and be feeling the same way I did. Can't stand my father because he won't let me do so-and-so. Or I think I should do this. Or I think because I want to do this and I think this is great. And he may be seeing something else and like, no, we can't do that right now, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, man, I don't like you. And even if you didn't have that experience with your father, and he decided not to be there, because he thought such and such would be volatile, or whatever the case is, have the conversation. If you never have the conversation, you're not going to learn some things. And if you decide to have the conversation, learn to temperament your mouth and your actions. Gain control of your actions so you don't react. One of the biggest things I've learned is just to let people talk. All right, they say something I don't like, I'm gonna sit there and bite. I'm gonna bite my tongue because I need to hear what it is that they're really saying, because there's also a message and there's an underlying message in what they're telling me. And if I really sit back, listen, and think, critical think, which is something lacking today, it's going to tell me a lot about why they did what they did, how they did what they did. And then it's like, okay, I can understand that. It's not about you when they're it's not about you when they're talking. That's a problem that a lot of people have. When people start talking and it has something either to do with you, in relation to you or whatever, you interject how you feel and you apply that to how they should actually then respond to you. How they responded, what they did has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. How they think, how they move. But that's another issue to where we don't really want to deal with, because you have to accept the fact that they do whatever it is that they do, and we all don't think alike. You just can't be upset because they didn't do it the way you wanted it to be done. If everybody did what we wanted to be done, where would the authenticity be? That would then be some form of control, which is why I say a lot of people deep down inside are very narcissists. They'll point the finger back and say, oh, you're the narcissist one. No, point that finger at you. Because if you want it done the way you want it done, as opposed to letting them do it or listening to how they're explaining it to you, how they felt in the moment, instead of you telling them how they felt and what you think they did, let them be them. You get a lot of more respect. They'll turn around and appreciate that you allow them to be themselves. You didn't fully judge. You know, like, don't judge me and all this and that. People like to say, oh, don't judge me and blah, blah, blah. No one's perfect and blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is, let that person say what they're going to say. And then I end up saying that because it's like, all right, if you didn't get to have that relationship with your dad, and then all of a sudden you go have that conversation, let them talk. That's the same thing with your children. Ask certain questions and let them talk. You're going to hear it. So I want to keep going. And with that being said, hit that like, hit that share button, hit that subscribe, notification bell, leave a comment, and also donation. Gladly appreciate it. And with that being said, it's Will My Craven, and I'm out.